Me right now is the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Republican Congressman Michael McCaul. Mr. Chairman, thanks for coming in. I want to start there, but then I want to ask you about everything that's unfolding in Israel. Your vote was unknown until late last night on the speaker's race. You came out of the meeting with Republicans last night saying that you will support Jim Jordan. What got you to a place where you're comfortable with that?
Well, I had a very good conversation with him. I was concerned about national security issues, particularly if we pass an Israeli supplemental national security bill. Would Ukraine be included in that? And I was assured that he could link the two. He would look at the details of that, but that was very important to me. But I think most importantly, Kate, is we can't afford not to have a speaker in the chair. We have to govern. I mean, as we look at what's unfolding in Israel, my committee does the authorization of use of military force. If we don't have a speaker in the chair, we can't pass any of this stuff. Jordan has a unique capability to govern his caucus, the Freedom Caucus, and primarily the 8 who ousted Kevin McCarthy. Now, I don't like rewarding bad behavior, don't get me wrong, but I don't like dysfunction either. And I think we need to have a functional government right now in such a dangerous time while the world is on fire.
Yeah, I mean, the stakes clearly seem to have increased quite a bit on getting the act together, if you will, with what we're seeing happen in Israel right now. Do you think, is your assessment then that you think kind of this paralysis ends today, a speakerless House will be over today?
You know, I don't have a crystal ball. I was disappointed that Kevin McCarthy got ousted. I thought Kevin was doing a very good job managing all the various factions. Right now the vote count doesn't look entirely promising, but I think Jim Jordan's going to put this into several rounds on the floor. He's very tenacious, so that remains to be seen. And if it doesn't work, then we're kind of back to, all right, maybe we got to look at Kevin McCarthy again. I just all I can tell you is, Kate, the longer this drags out, the more dangerous it is, not just for the United States, but for the world, because we are the leader.
I want to ask you about this because there are a lot of elements that you have a lot of information on with regard to what's going on in Israel. First and foremost, this question of a humanitarian corridor or aid with regard to getting in from the Rafah crossing from Egypt into Gaza. You're in touch with a lot of the lead agencies. What are you hearing about this?
Right. Well, I've talked to the Qataris, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, the Saudis. World Food Program, Cindy McCain, in charge of that, Samantha Powers, USAID. I think this is what the president, I anticipate, will announce on Wednesday, is that the Rafah gate, which is the gate on the border of southern Gaza and Egypt, will be opened to allow Americans and foreign nationals to escape out, and also wounded, Palestinians as well. But I think rank and file civilian Palestinians, the gate will be open to allow humanitarian relief into southern Gaza, because the World Food Program has always dealt in very warlike zones. They know how to do this. But we have to have the assurance from Hamas that they're not going to steal the food and humanitarian relief going in and use it for military purposes. That's a negotiation taking place right now. And I think for the sake of the 1 million children whose lives could be at risk, we have to make this thing work. And finally, because the narrative is such that if you see children in southern Gaza being impacted, that's going to light up Hamas's narrative and could impact Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon. And that's our nightmare scenario, is that Hezbollah gets involved with their 100,000 rockets.
Well, speaking of a nightmare scenario, I heard you say that your committee is now drafting legislation, the way you put it, in the event that it's necessary to authorize U.S. military force and AUMF if the current conflict between Israel and Hamas, that it broadens into a wider proxy war. I mean, if that's not a statement of what is at risk and what is at stake and what you have to plan for right now, I don't know what is. I mean, what are the conditions that would make it necessary? What are you hearing from the White House?
Well, let me say the first most solemn obligation we have in Congress is under Article 1 to the power to declare war, in this case an authorization of use of military force. I have been in contact with the White House about this. They do not have authorities to hit Hezbollah or Hamas or any of Iran's proxies, even the Iran-backed militias in Iraq, for instance. So this is something we are looking at. As you know, Secretary Austin now has 2,000 Marines and expeditionary force off the coast of Gaza and Israel, I'd say northern Israel near Hezbollah, as a deterrent to ensure that Hezbollah does not invade Israel. And I agree with that. I'm glad the Secretary's put the warships there, aircraft carriers, destroyers. But the expeditionary force of Marines is very telling, because that would be a kinetic force that if they land on the ground, their boots on the ground go into war. And we don't want that to happen. I hope I never have to mark up, as we say, my authorization of use of military force, but I have to be prepared for that situation.
I mean, and that is the job of your committee and of your chairmanship, that you need to plan for these things. But my God, what that would mean if it needs to get there. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time. Sarah, I want to head back to you.
Thanks for having me.